And as I've mentioned from time to time, your views and comments are a big part of this show. Send them in on Facebook at Joy News, on Twitter at Joy News on TV. Remember to add the hashtag #ThePulse. We'll share your thoughts with the rest of the world. Now, we begin from the Ashanti region, where 3 students of the Mampong Nurses and Midwifery Training School have filed a petition at the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, SRAJ, alleging the violation of their rights by school authorities. The petition, filed on their behalf by human rights lawyer Francis Xavier Sosu, alleges that they were prevented from writing their external examination simply because they were pregnant. Lawyer Sosu joins me now on the line with more on this particular story. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Sosu.
Yeah, good afternoon. Very good
So,
afternoon.
for these 3 clients of yours, these students, when did they get pregnant and when were they stopped from writing this exam?
Well, exactly when they got pregnant, we cannot tell, but it's clear that they got pregnant during the course of their training.
And what condition are they in right now? I'm just trying to understand the reasons for which the school authorities will ask them not to write the exam.
I beg your pardon. Can you kindly repeat that?
I'm asking the condition of these 3 students. Are they what? A month away from delivery, 2 months away from delivery?
Oh, okay. Well, for one of them, she is, I think, about 3 months away. For 2 of them, they have already delivered, and they are doing quite well now, and they are so strong enough to write that exam. But the fact is that they were denied the opportunity to register for the exam on account of their pregnancy.
Now, when you say they were denied from registering, what exactly happened?
What happened was that the school said there was a policy that requires that once you're a student, you don't become pregnant during your course. And once you become pregnant during your course, you are required to defer the course for 1 year to go take care of your pregnancy, after which you can come back to continue with your training.
So, Mr. Sosu, if you say this is a school requirement for which on their admission they signed on to, why don't we be talking about it now? Why do you call it the violation of their human rights?
Well, the issue is that it is not only about it being a school requirement, but it is whether that requirement passes the test of law. It could be that there were many people in the past who didn't mind, and each time they became pregnant, they chose to defer their course. But these are students who mind and who have instructed us to act on their behalf and to demand that the application of that policy against them is discriminatory, and it is against their fundamental rights under the Constitution, and it's also against, their rights under the UN Convention against all forms of discrimination against women. So these are the issues at stake, and that is the reason why we are taking up this matter with SRAJ, to ensure that even now that there is opportunity for them to still register, there can be some action taken by SRAJ, Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, to ensure that those female students who are pregnant get a chance to write the exam.
And for the case you say you petitioned to SRAJ, who did you send it to? Is it here in Accra or in the region?
No, it was filed in SRAJ here in Accra, and copies of this same petition have been sent to the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. We have also sent the copy on the chairman of the Nurses and Midwifery Council. We've also sent a copy of that on the Minister of Health. We are hoping that all these institutions working together would see the reasoning behind this petition, that it will be completely absurd to say that somebody who is about 35 years old, married, and is a student cannot get pregnant once she's a student. Obviously, that is very discriminatory.
No, okay, so what you see to achieve here is what? That these 3 are given the opportunity to register and write the exams?
Absolutely. That is exactly what we are demanding that will be done. And then following that, I'm hoping and looking forward to SRAJ making recommendations that will lead to scrapping that policy or from the book of the midwifery and the training of nurses, because I think it's very, very discriminatory. students who have become victims of the application of this policy. But what we know is that it's a bad policy and it must not be on our statute, or it must not be part of the regulations of that school.
But Mr. Sosu, that's one thing that I need some clarity on, because you say that when they were admitted, they were asked to sign that admission form indicating that throughout your period of study, do not get pregnant. They signed on to this, didn't they? So how come you're now turning around after not adhering to it, saying that your rights have been violated?
Well, I'm not quite sure that, anybody going into that school would say that can sign a law that says that you cannot be pregnant whilst you are in that school. I am sure that perhaps it may be one of those leading clauses that may be part of a number of regulations that are being implemented in that school, where the person becomes aware of that regulation, no matter how late it is, so long as the regulations application would violate the fundamental rights of that person, the person can raise it at any point in time. Indeed, when you go under our constitution and you go under the various several rules that we have for bringing out or for bringing about a human rights claim or human rights action, one of the requirements is when the alleged breach, where you became aware of the said alleged breach. It could be that right from the start of school, they never got to know about how, the implementation of those rules, whether they were going to be discriminatory against them or not. But at the point of implementation, if the person finds it discriminatory, you still have the right to raise it so that it will be addressed.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Francis Xavier Sosu is a human rights lawyer representing these three students at the Mampong Midwifery and Nursing Training College in the Bunafo region. We're learning that these three students were prevented from writing their final exams due to their condition of being pregnant. One of them is 35 and married, got herself pregnant with a husband, and now he's saying that she's challenging that particular provision in the school's regulations, barring her from writing a final exam so she could go become the nurse that she dreamt of. We'll see what happens with this case and what the school authorities will also say in reaction to this matter in the coming days. Well, from the Bunafo region, let's head down to the Ashanti region, where the police commander and the mayor of Kumasi have been promising justice for the family of a young man allegedly brutalized to death by the police at Krofrom. Now, DCOP Kofi Boachi and the mayor Kojo Bonsu first met the angry, teeming youth on the streets before commiserating with the aged guardian of the deceased, Osei Teria. The over 500 angry youth took to the streets this morning, burning ties and chanting war songs after a report emerged suggesting that a young man who was allegedly beaten and shocked with tasers the previous night had died. We can speak to Love FM's Erastus Asari Donko for more on this particular story. Erastus, good afternoon to you. You've spent the morning with the family of this young man who has been killed by the police officer. How are they taking the news of their relative's demise?
Well, it's a shock. They are in pain. The guardian of the deceased is inconsolable, and he doesn't understand why the police will not arrest his son, put him before court or something, put him behind bars, follow due process, and if he's found guilty, deal with him. So they are not coming to terms with the fact that they will handcuff his son, allegedly subject him to beatings and use tasers to shock him severally until he died. And that is the kind of emotions they are expressing. In fact, they were wailing all around when the regional police commander came. The grandmother was rolling on the ground, shedding tears, and asking for justice.
Must be difficult for the family at this point, Erastus, but you've been speaking to eyewitnesses. Many are asking what warranted the police taking this action, handcuffing this boy and beating him to death. What exactly happened?
Well, it was 10 p.m. yesterday. The young man, now we know his name as Osei Teria, he comes after a twin. And at that particular time, there was a woman who sells food. And that woman, they claim, is her guardian. And so he went in there, handed his bag over to the woman, and asked to go to the public toilet, which is close by. And just at that time, the 5 police men, including a woman, they were approaching the vicinity, and allegedly they were trailing some people on a motorbike. And so when they got there and they met the gentleman, they felt that he was part of those they were chasing. And so they arrested him, handcuffed him, and started subjecting him to a beating with the butt of the gun and then tasers. According to eyewitnesses, they were shocking him severally with the taser. And so at a point, he became unconscious. And there, at that point, the witness is saying he intervened and asked them to give him the boy to be sent to the hospital, but they will not budge. Rather, they put him in the back of a pickup vehicle and sped off. And so they did not know where they were sending him to until they realized that his body has been dumped at the Mencia Government Hospital.
Interesting accounts there by the eyewitnesses. But, Erastus, before we talk about what the police commander and the mayor of Kumasi have been saying in relation to this case, what do we know about this 22-year-old boy? Because some would say there may be two sides to this story, whether in fact he was a man who was being trailed for a crime or another, or it was a classic case of mistaken identity. What more do we know about this 22-year-old boy?
Well, this is a boy that over 500 people within the community are attesting to the fact that he's a calm gentleman. He doesn't speak much. He's very respectable within the community, and that is what is, creating this rising tension and anger amongst the people there. Crofrom is a vicinity where a lot goes on in terms of drug peddling, in terms of crime and other activities, meat smoking and all that. And they are saying, they tell me that we know ourselves and we know the criminals amongst us. If they have shot anybody at all we know is a criminal, we wouldn't even blink an eye. But this is somebody we know from the community as a very calm person, and so we are shocked and angry. And that is what was creating the tension that got anybody at all who got wind that the guy has been shot will come to the scene and join the protest.
Welcome back to the Pulse. And just before the break, we were talking about developments at Crofrom in Kumasi, that young man who has been killed by police officers at Crofrom. We can speak to Erastus. He was giving us details of what DCOP Kofi Boache and the mayor of Kumasi, Kojo Bonsu, mean when they say they are promising justice for the family. Erastus, did they explain what they mean by the promise of justice for the family?
Yes, exactly. When they came, they went onto the street where the youth had gathered in their numbers, burning tires and all that. They addressed them, told them that what their idea of justice in this case is that they are going to conduct an autopsy on the body, and if the findings portray that indeed the man died as a result of the alleged brutalities meted out to him by the police, then indeed they will charge the police personnel who did that with murder. In fact, he was emphatic on charging them with murder if the findings point in that direction. And then after they went to the family house of the deceased and also gave some promises as well to the aged woman who had guided this young man up to this point.
What kind of reception did the family of this young man give to the mayor of Kumasi and the regional commander when they visited?
In fact, it was mixed. You had other members of the family being skeptical about whether indeed they are going to get justice. Some of them you could hear even when the mayor and the commander were addressing the family, they were still, crying and uttering, chanting other words that indeed there have been other happenings within the community. The police are not attending to that, and then they kill an innocent man. Those lamentations were going on in the background. But then the aged woman who was the point of addressed by the police at that particular moment, was attentively listening to DCOP Kofi Boakye. At a point, both went over to her, hugged her, and assured her that they are going to ensure that justice is done in this particular case.
All right. Finally, for the teeming youth who made it to the streets today in protest of the decision by the police officers to beat up this young man to death, have they cleared out? Have they left the streets, or they're still there?
In fact, after they were addressed by the mayor and the commander, in fact, they left the street. The streets cleared. They themselves cleared the streets of the burning tires and promised that they were going to wait patiently and for the results of the autopsy. All
right. Thank you, Erastus Asari Donkey, giving us details from Krofrom in Kumasi. We know of that incident, don't we? A 24-year-old young man has been beaten to death by police officers at Krofrom in Kumasi. We brought you those details. Well, the human rights group, Amnesty International, has been speaking on this matter. The Executive Secretary for the Ghana chapter, Lawrence Amesu, has been at pains to explain what they call a very worrisome trend by the Ghana Police Service of beating up innocent civilians in the country today.
It is very worrying for us to continue to experience and almost every day hear about police brutalities on individuals or group of people and leading to deaths. For example, what has happened in Kumasi recently, the people are saying that the police have, because of police action, somebody has died, and they want action immediately. And the police are saying that, wait, we will investigate. For Amnesty International, it is important for us to know that while we are in election year, the police and the security officers need to be more professional than what we are experiencing now. Because if what is going on now continues, we are worried that the police may not be able to manage group or larger groups who are going to be moving here and there in the country during election year. One of the things that Amnesty International and indeed other human rights organizations in Ghana have been saying is that we need an independent police complaint unit so that when issues such as what is happening in Kumasi now come up, the people can move to that independent body to say that this is what has happened, and that independent body should come out and say this is what we have find out and this is what has to be done. Leaving this issue for the police to do investigation about their own people, there is no way that we will get justice, because we don't believe that the policing the police is the best way. We need an independent body or people to investigate when a police, somebody complained that the police has done something. Well, it is also important that when somebody died, it to be concerned for all Ghanaians and not for only the immediate relatives. So when somebody died, I think the police should come out and be able to say, yeah, this is what has happened and this is what we want to do immediately to at least pacify the family or the immediate friends of people who are, or somebody who had died. But just to leave it and say that we are going to investigate it. And for many times, we do not hear of the reports of the investigation. And when this happens, people are likely to take the law into their hands and want to say that, well, there are many times that these things happen and we don't get results, we don't get any effective, or we don't get justice. And therefore, they will want to take the law into their action and maybe take action against the police. This is also not good. We cannot encourage mob action. We cannot take the law in our own hands.
In fact, I was going to ask you, my next question was whether these actions by the security agencies, the military, the police, and the other security agencies will affect the instant justice and all that. Because it seems that now some section of the general public are losing trust in the security agencies? Is this going to incite members of the general public?
Indeed, if the Ghanaian population or Ghanaians are not getting answers to situations where the military or the police will go and kill somebody, they are not getting information about what has happened. The investigation that is said to be conducted, nobody hears. It will push people, especially the youth, to take in instant justice. And this is what we also not want to see. For Amnesty International and indeed all human rights activists, we do not want to also promote mob actions. We do not want to promote a situation where individuals or groups of people who want to take the law into their own hands and start taking action against the police or the military. This is also not acceptable. But it is also not acceptable that the police or the military should be left alone to be doing anything that they want. Very often, the military particularly metes out brutalities, torture people, and then we don't hear the result, what action has been taken. And indeed, it will incite people to want to say that, well, we are taking the law into our own hands, and instant justice is the way we want to go. But Amnesty International will also want to caution against instant justice and mob action. We want to advise Ghanaians that it is not proper for us also to take the law into our own hands. When the military or the police take any action, we want to retaliate. That will not be the best. It is important that now that we are moving into the election period, the police become more professional than they used to be. The military should be more professional, and indeed all security agencies. Otherwise, we are likely to have a chaotic situation in our hand if we don't handle it properly.
Now, let me get back to the Kumasi issue. What do you think should be done in the circumstances we find ourselves in right now, that people are agitating about the decisions being taken by the RECSEC and the other security officers in the area? What do you think instantly or very soon should be done to curb this?
Yeah. In fact, when such a situation happens, it's a national disaster. It is a situation that we are not expecting immediately. So I will imagine that RECSEC will want to quickly say that, yes, we have lost a soul, we have lost somebody. It is our own person, even though it may not be a police officer, it may not be a military officer. Somebody who died in Ghana is a Ghanaian, and police are supposed to protect everybody. And for that reason, once we have lost the person unexpectedly, unfortunately, the RECSEC should take responsibility immediately to say that we will take care of all the expenses, we will pacify the family with some compensation, at least to soothe or to give indication that the police and then the RECSEC is concerned about what has happened. And then when they move to investigate and come out with a report, then people will be satisfied that something has been done. But if to say that we are investigating and then the people know that nothing is going to come out of it, then we are for sure going to have a chaotic situation. But I will advise that RECSEC should take this issue and say that RECSEC would take responsibility of all the funeral expenses, would take a responsibility to compensate the family and the friends, at least to smooth the situation before we move on to the next stage of finding out what has happened and who should be responsible and who should be punished.
That's Lawrence Amesu. He is with the Amnesty International, the Ghana chapter, sharing his thoughts on what the police's activities in terms of handling civilians and beating them up has resulted in. They call it torture, and they are asking for more to be done in stopping this trend. Let's now head to Parliament, where the Mines and Energy Committee have been grilling the Deputy Prime Minister and the technical directors of the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, the Volta River Authority, VRA, and the Ghana Grid Company, Gridco, over the erratic power supply and overbilling in recent times. This comes as the ECG says it cannot entirely stop the using the new software as directed by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, the PURC, because that will halt the whole billing process. In fact, The General Manager, Public Relations of ECG, William Boateng, in an interview said the company and its consultants who worked on the software were currently conducting an audit to establish the anomalies and will refund payments if they have to. Let's get an update from our parliamentary correspondent, Alton Brobe, who's been monitoring the closed-door meeting for the Mines and Energy Committee. He joins me now on the line. Alton, the meeting started some 4 hours ago. Has it ended? What do we know about this meeting? What the outcome has been?
Okay, yeah, the meeting ended about 2 hours ago. But it ended inconclusive. So my information is that they will meet again on Tuesday to look into the issues. I'm told by some of the members on the committee that some of the questions that they had before the meeting could not be provided by the Electricity Company of Ghana. They specifically wanted to know the billing system and how come some consumers are paying more than was approved by the PURC for the ECG, and why the calculations in terms of a billing takes more than a month before a bill is given to a consumer. So these are some of the questions they had before going into that particular meeting. But what I've been told by the ranking member on the committee, Katie Hammond, is that ECG officials who came before them could not provide answers to some of these questions. And in his own words, they left the meeting more confused than before. And for that reason, they've asked for further particulars on some of the issues that they had. And they've given the ECG up to Tuesday to come before the committee to explain. So the burning issue about why we are paying more than was approved could not be provided for by the ECG. The issue about the billing software, which has already been suspended by the PURC, they could also provide further answers. As a matter of fact, according to Katie Hammond, the person in charge of the billing system was absent during this particular meeting. They've requested that he be present during Tuesday's meeting. So for him, they concluded the meeting in a more confused state than they were to him. But what I've also been told is that at some point in the meeting, personnel of ECG who appeared before the committee, blamed the power ministry and indeed and by extension government for the software, because according to what I was told by a member on the committee, the ECG officials made it look like the software was forced on them by the power ministry, in which I'm told that the deputy power minister John Jinapo and the former power minister Dr. Kwabena Donko, who is a member of the Mines and Energy Committee, denied it, and later ECG had to admit that indeed this was part of their own program to ensure efficiency and transparency in the billing system. So Francis, for the issues that all of us are looking forward to for some kind of explanation to be provided, what I've been told by members on the Mines and Energy Committee is that they did not get those answers and they are more confused, hoping that on Tuesday more clarity will be brought to the issues that is of major concern to Ghanaians. Okay, now that's quite interesting. Even though we didn't get the details we wanted, some of the things they're saying, blaming the power ministry for the billing software that we have now, is already interesting as it is. We'll see how that plays out on Tuesday. But if they could not answer these questions, what were they able to answer today at the committee sitting? Well, I told you earlier that Katie Hammond told me in an interview that he left the meeting more confused. Indeed, all members on the committee were not given the answers that they wanted before the meeting. In fact, in his own words, they could not go beyond, the issues relating to the billing system, because it became a back and forth. First of all, they asked about how much was approved by the PURC, and they actually gave them so many scenarios. By the end of it, or ECG could not really explain the issues. Off record, some of the issues they've been telling me is that perhaps there's more to it than what we have been told as Ghanaians, and they are hoping that on Tuesday some of these issues will be addressed. But the issues relating to the software, let me point out that I was told by a member of the committee that the deputy power minister, and indeed Dr. Kwabena Donko, who was a power minister, denied that the ministry or government was responsible for the software that ECG had been using until it was suspended by the PURC. So that matter was actually resolved between the committee, because for Katie Hammond, they will be quoting the exact words of the ECG in their report. But what came out was that ECG had to eat back their own words, about blaming government for the software which they have been using until PURC asked them to suspend it. So we'll have to wait till Tuesday before we can get clarity on some of these issues. But for now, it doesn't look like much was said by ECG officials. Indeed, what I've been told that they've asked them to provide some documentation. They've asked them to bring before the committee some personnel who are directly responsible for some of the issues that's raised so much concern within the country. And on Tuesday, they hope to deal with these matters.
Okay. Elton, one last thing. We know that this sitting, which was done today, was supposed to have been done yesterday. Yesterday, what was the hold-up and what has happened for that meeting that we're learning of?
Well, the information I picked from the committee is that even though they scheduled this particular meeting yesterday, they were told to push it to today because of a cabinet meeting that the minister had to attend. And I'm told that the whole that cabinet meeting discussed this billing system as well. So that's how come the minister could not appear before the committee yesterday, even though officials of the ECG came in waiting for the minister to come. The discussion would have taken place, but the committee insisted on ECG being led by the power minister himself. That's how come they took the decision to postpone the meeting to today because of what we were told was the cabinet meeting that the minister had to attend.
Okay. One last thing, Elton. Was the PURC part of today's meetings? Because that controversy over suspended billing software, ECG says, I'm sorry, we can't do it because it will compromise the entire billing process. Were they there themselves at this committee meeting?
Yes, PURC was there. Mr. Samuel Sapon, the executive secretary, and Anaya Jantua, they were all there. I'm told that next week, Tuesday, what they hope, among the other people they've asked to appear before the committee will also be the Energy Commission.
All right, thank you, Alton Brobe. He's our parliamentary correspondent. Kept his ears on the ground, getting details for us on that Mines and Energy Committee meeting, which had the Deputy Power Minister, John Jenapo, and the team of chief executives from ECG, VRA, and Gridco, as well as the PURC, appear to answer questions. But per the information we're getting, we had very little in terms of information, but they will return on Tuesday answering those key questions that many want answers to on why we are being overbilled and what exactly will happen in resolving this particular matter. We'll go for a break at this point. When we come back, we'll tell you what Ghana is doing in helping with efforts in the war-torn country of Somalia. Details after the break. Stay with us.